and welcome to Lamakan anniversary events. So today we mark another year of Lamakan. We come together to celebrate not just the time but also the persistence of the space and how the space is quietly and courageously holding up the space for ideas, for dialogue, and for community. So happy 16th to every one of you from us. Now, I would like to invite the staff of Lamakan, who are the heroes behind the screen, to wish us. Bharat Bhai, आइए, Sahadev Bhai आइए.
जय जगन्नाथ, सबको नमस्कार। मेरा नाम भरत है, 16 साल से काम कर रहा हूँ एनिवर्सरी में। सबको स्वागत है। थैंक यू। मेरा नाम सादेव, मैं 4 साल से लामाकान में काम कर रहा हूँ। एनिवर्सरी में आप सबको स्वागत है।
Thank you so much. Next, Vasant Bhai.
सभी को नमस्कार, गुड इवनिंग। ओपन कल्चरल प्रेस, मेरा नाम बसंत, मैं 4 साल से काम कर रहा हूँ। लमागन फेमस हैदराबाद।
Thank you so much. And let's go through a brief overview of what happened last year in Lamakan. I'm not going to read out the total list of the events, but I'll give you the gist of it. Here's it. Cinema, visual arts, we had 145 of them. Theatre, yes. Theatre, we had 71 of them. Literature, storytelling, etc., we had 35. Talks, discussions, Lamakan signature events, we had 127 of them. Yes. Then we have all events like community building, networking, learning and development together. 35 events. We have 365 days in a year. And 4 days Lamakan is not working in a month. 8 days we give public holidays. Yet, we had 459 events last year. Thank you so much. The space is alive is because of all of you. We are thankful, we are grateful, and we are so happy to be here with you. And now, without any ado, we'll start the event, and Farhan will introduce the event. The stage is all yours.
दोस्तों, साथियों, गुड इवनिंग, आदाब। एंड आज दूसरा दिन है हमारी एनिवर्सरी का, और आज मीर अली हुसैन से हम एक तकरीर सुनेंगे ऑफ सॉर्ट्स। और मैं मेरी हुसैन से बहुत पुरानी और ज़ाती ताल्लुक़ है, और मेरा ख्याल है जिनका जब दोस्ती इतनी लंबी हो जाती है तो ये बेहतर होता है कि ज़्यादा कुछ कहा ना जाए। हाँ, लेकिन मैं काफ़ी कुछ कहने वाला हूँ, डोंट वरी। तो हाँ, तो आपको ये पता है कि वो प्रोफेसर हैं, मैनेजमेंट के प्रोफेसर हैं, लेकिन उनकी परवरिश उर्दू की अदब में उतनी हुई जितनी अपने वालिदैन के साथ हुई। वो उर्दूदां हैं, और उर्दू की तनकीद यानी उर्दू क्रिटिसिज्म में उन्होंने काफ़ी काम किया है। सब यानी मैं बाकी चीज़ें नहीं बताऊँगा उनके बारे में, लेकिन ये है कि उर्दू ज़्यादा आजकल बोली और समझी जाती है और कम लिखी और पढ़ी जाती है, और इस ये दोनों जो दुनिया है उर्दू अदब और उर्दू बोलचाल उसको स्पैन करने के लिए जो काम होता है उसमें इनका बहुत बड़ा कंट्रीब्यूशन रहा है। किताबें लिखी हैं उन्होंने, ख़ासतौर पे तरक्की पसंद अदब जिसे हम कहते हैं, प्रोग्रेसिव लिटरेचर पे। मेरा ख्याल है वाहिद किताब है अंग्रेज़ी में जो इन सब चीज़ों को आपके सामने पेश करती है। आज उनका जो मौजू है, टॉपिक है, वो उर्दू शायरी और शेरियात यानी कि पोइटिक्स और इसकी तारीख। तो ये बहुत ही संजीदा है, लेकिन मुझे पता है कि संजीदगी से अली गुरेज करते हैं और हम सब मुश्ताक हैं आज उनको सुनने के लिए। I hope you all have a great time and you also learn. I'm so looking forward to this. Mir Ali Hussain.
Thank you all for coming. And thank you to those of you who came on time. I know there's a penalty for people who are punctual, but it's Hyderabad. And traffic, I guess, is unpredictable. Anyway, तो मेरा इरादा कोई तकरीर करने का नहीं है. I thought कि there are many people who have a passing familiarity with Urdu poetry. Maybe they know a few shares, maybe they know more than that. Perhaps there are some among you, I see a couple who are masters. But my idea is to address people who enjoy Urdu poetry but may not have a great sense of its structures, its form, its metaphors. So in some ways this is like a 101, but जो उर्दू अदब से अच्छी तरीके से वाकिफ हैं उनको भी खाली हाथ नहीं लौटाना है. So let me begin with an invocation of sorts. In a poem titled Apni Malikaye Sukhanse, to the Queen of Eloquence, Josh Malihabadi writes, addressing the language of Urdu. Dariya ka mod, नग़मे शीरीं का ज़ेरो बम, चादर शबे नुजूम की, शबनम का रख्ते नम, तितली का नाज़े रक़्स, ग़ज़ाला का हुस्न रम, मोती की आब, गुल की महक, माह नौ का खम, इन सब के इम्तिज़ाज से पैदा हुई है तू, कितने हसीन उफ़क़ पे हुएदा हुई है तू. The bend of the river, the notes of a sweet song, the stars-strewn night, the veil of dew, the butterfly's flight, the gazelle's dance, the luster of pearls, the fragrance of roses, the curve of the crescent moon. From these you were born, rising into being upon a glorious horizon. Just notice the khanak of the language. And even if you don't know the words, there is a certain pleasure that you get from just listening to the sound. आवाज में ये रस, ये लताफत, ये इस्तिरार, जैसे सुबुक महीन रवां रेशमी खुआर, लहजे में ये खटक है कि है नीशता की धार, और गिर रहा है धार से शबनम का आबशार. चहकी जो तू चमन में हवाएं महक गईं, गुल बरगे तर से ओस की बूंदें टपक गईं. The lilt, the pleasure and the power of your voice, like a soft silken flow of a fine mist, your accent like the sharp edge of a dagger, and yet like soothing vapor dripping from its blade. When you sing in the garden, the breeze turns fragrant, and sweet nectar begins to fall from the petals of roses. And so it goes for 24 stanzas. For those who grew up with Urdu poetry, it is neither exalted nor confined to literary circles. As a matter of fact, it's commonplace. Even today, I can walk through my neighborhood in the old city and stumble onto a mushaira where a bunch of poets are reciting their work, each of them adhering to at least a certain minimum standard. And I remember the days when I was growing up and we would go to the Shankarji Mushaira in the exhibition grounds, a ticketed event where thousands and thousands of people would sit late into the night listening to poet upon poet reciting their verses, encouraging some of them with loud sounds of wah wah and heckling some of them. The best of the poets were saved for the last, and it was often close to dawn before Raghupati Sahaya Firah, a Mahendra Singh Bedi Sahab, or a Kaifi Azmi took the stage. Urdu poetry is also an oral medium. Hardly anybody reads Urdu poetry. You listen to it being declaimed, often by the poets themselves. And very often you would listen to a poem for just once in your life. And if you like it enough, you'd better memorize it on the spot. And it's not as difficult as you might think. As they say, अच्छे शेर की पहचान ही यही है कि वो याद हो जाए. I suspect that there are many among the people who, for example, visit this Bazme Sufan, which also held in Lamakan, who can recite hundreds, if not thousands of verses without looking at a book or turning a page. I'm one of them. And this, it's fairly common. It's nothing to brag about, to be honest. I think every uncle, aunt of mine can, recite books. The corpus of stored knowledge serves another purpose. One can deploy a share, a couplet, in everyday conversation to adorn your speech, to express a nuanced thought, to explain one's feelings, to unself-consciously emphasize a point or sketch a mood by drawing upon a couplet here, a quatrain there, and to say ordinary things in extraordinary ways. My father, for instance, would always wake us up with a couplet, usually this one by Majroor Sultanpuri, which went, "Utho aur utھ ke inhi qafilon mein mil jao, jo manzilon ko hai garde safar banaye hue." Arise and join these caravans that have left several destinations in their wake. To be frank, it was a bit annoying. But the poetry was in the air. Like, I remember when I was leaving for the United States to go to grad school, an uncle of mine bid me farewell with a couplet, a share by Ghalib in Farsi, which went, "Vida o wasl, juda gana lazzate tari, hazar bar bero, sad hazar bar diya." Parting and meeting again are two different kinds of joys. Leave 1,000 times. Just make sure you come back 100,000 times. And recently I was talking to a cousin whose husband was refusing to retire despite her entreaties. And she exasperately said, "Itne manu sayyad se ho gaye, gar rehai milegi to mar jayenge." He is so much in love with his captor that he will die if he is freed. So just as English has named poetic forms with structural rules, such as the sonnet, which must have 14 lines and a fixed time scheme, an Urdu poem qualifies as a ghazal, a qita, a masnavi, or a musaddas only if it obeys certain specific rules of meter, stanza structure, and rhyme. And there are many such formal structures, along with many thematic genres. You might have heard of some like the Hamd, the Naat, the Manqabat, the Marsiya, etc. My intent is to focus on two so that we can talk a little bit in depth about them. The ghazal and the marsiya. The ghazal, which is the most common form of Urdu poetry, is a love lyric that is shaped by longing. Its very root means to speak amorously, to flirt, to woo, and in an older, more literal sense, it refers to the cry of a deer separated from its mate. So the ghazal is a voice of yearning, love spoken as ache. It gives poetic form to both the pain of loss and separation, and to the beauty of love that endures and even deepens through that pain. The ghazal emerged in 7th century Arabia, spread west to North Africa and medieval Spain and east into Persia, where between the 12th and the 13th century it crystallized into a refined and distinctive form that we know today. And from Persia, it reached the Indian subcontinent through Sufi mystics and through courtly patronage. Amir Khusro is credited with establishing and popularizing the form here and with contributing to the early development of Rekhta, the Persianized literary register that later evolved into Urdu, which was shaped by an amalgam of Brij Bhasha, Khadi Boli, and Awadhi. Permit me a short detour. Today, Urdu in India is seen falsely as the language of Muslims, as the language of Pakistan, leading a despondent Anand Narayan Mullah to write, Labe Madar ne Mullah jisme lori aa sunayi thi, wo din aaya hai jab usko bhi gairon ki zabaan samjho. I'm being asked to believe that the language in which my own mother sang me lullabies is someone else's tongue. The irony, of course, is that Urdu was imposed on Pakistani Muslims, even though only about 7% claimed it as their mother tongue in 1947. In East Pakistan, now Bangladesh, resistance to this imposition became a major fault line. In India too, Muslim identity has never mapped on to the language. Muslims in Kerala speak Malayalam, Tamil Nadu, Tamil, in Andhra Pradesh, and Telangana, Telugu, and so on. And there are hundreds and hundreds of Urdu poets, many who belong to the canon, who are not Muslim. Also, there are several non-Muslim religious texts that have been translated into Urdu. Urdu Mein Hindi Dharm, a book by Ajay Malviya, written in Urdu, catalogues 66 Urdu translations of the Vedas, 103 Ramayans, 38 Mahabharats, 83 Bhagavad Gitas, 44 Puranas, and hundreds of other religious compositions spanning over 200 years. Incidentally, of the 103 Ramayans listed in that book, 12 are by Muslim poets. Funnily, many of the Ramayans, including several written by Hindus, begin with the invocation Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Allama Muhammad Iqbal, the ideologue credited with the two-nation theory, wrote reverential poems about Hindu deities and about temples. Maulana Hasrat Mohani, who wrote that famous ghazal that you may know, Chupke Chupke Raat Din Aasu Bahana Yaad Hai, and more importantly, who gave the independence movement the slogan Inqilab Zindabad, was a Krishna Bhakt and made it a point to visit Mathura after he came back from each Hajj that he performed. The bottom line is that Urdu is Khalis Hindustani Zaban and has been a repository and the safekeeper of our cultural heritage and our syncretic traditions. Zulm ka zahar gholne wali, kamra ho sakenge aaj na kal. Mullah Anand Narayan Sahab writes, Mullah bana diya hai ise bhi mahaze chang, ek sulha ka payam thi Urdu zaba kar. This tongue, which once was a message of peace, has also been turned into a war zone. Alright, end of the detour, back to the ghazal. Pardon the pedantic tone of this part, but I do want to explain to you how the structure of a ghazal works. So a ghazal is composed of about 5 to 15 couplets, which are called shares. Each couplet is called a share, or sometimes a bayt. That's the Arabic word for the same thing. And each couplet is completely autonomous, which means that in that 2-line couplet, you have to tell an entire story. The first line, the Misra Ula, is the setup. And the second line, the Misra Sani, is the payoff. And in Mushairas, that's a public declamation of poetry, the poet tries to hold back the meaning of the share till the very last second, so that it comes as a revelation, like an aha kind of a moment. And often there's a game being played between the audience and the poet, where the audience is trying to guess how the share is going to end before the poet recites it. So let me explain this using Playful Ghazal by Ahmad Faraz. The first couplet of the ghazal is called a matla, which sets up the rhyme, the rhythm, and the prosody of the ghazal itself. So in this ghazal addressing the beloved, Faraz writes, "Tujhe hai mashke sitam ka malal वैसे ही, हमारी जान थी जान पर वबाल वैसे ही." You express remorse at your cruelty, but वैसे ही. Faraz speaking to the beloved says, you are expressing remorse at your cruelty, but वैसे ही. और हमारी जान थी जान पर वबाल वैसे ही. My life was a burden in any case. Now, note that the words वैसे ही are repeated, identical in both lines. That part of the couplet is called the radif. And the word that precedes the radif, which is called the hafiya, rhymes. So, tujhe hai mashke sitam ka malal वैसे ही, हमारी जान थी जान पर वबाल वैसे ही. Now, every line will follow, every couplet henceforth will follow the same meter, and the second line of every couplet will end with a word that rhymes with malal or wabal, and then end with वैसे ही. So let's look at the next शेर. चला था जिक्र ज़माने की बेवफाई का. The conversation turned to the बेवफाई of people in general. चला था जिक्र ज़माने की बेवफाई का, सो आ गया है तुम्हारा ख्याल वैसे ही. And I don't know why, says the poet disingenuously, you came to mind वैसे ही. हम आ गए हैं तहे दाम, सो नसीब अपना. It's my fortune that I got snagged by this net. वगरना उसने तो फेंका था जाल वैसे ही. So the one that, the beloved had thrown the net वैसे ही. Now please note one thing. I'm not gendering the beloved or the lover. And this is an important point. With rare exceptions, these two protagonists of the Urdu ghazal, the lover and the beloved, aren't gendered in a traditional male-female manner in Urdu. This isn't an accident, it's convention. There's no compulsive heteronormativity here. And I'll say more about why in a bit. The final share of the ghazal is called a makhta, where the poet often, not always, uses their pen name. So in this ghazal, Faraz writes, "Mujhe bhi shauq na tha दास्तां सुनाने का." I too wasn't keen on telling my story. मुझे भी शौक न था दास्तां सुनाने का, फराज उसने भी पूछा था हाल वैसे ही. Sometimes a poet will use their takhallus to convey meaning rather than just as a marker of this is my poetic name. So we had a poet in Hyderabad, Khamakha Hyderabadi. Khamakha का मतलब होता है बिला वजह, for no good reason. So he writes, सब जख्म खुद भरेंगे भरेगा कोई नहीं, मरने से पहले कद्र करेगा कोई नहीं, तलवार अगर हवा में चलाओगे खामखा, बाजू धकेंगे और मरेगा कोई नहीं. So now that we have dipped our toes, let's jump into the deep end. And let me do 3 shares from a ghazal by Ghalib. From his diwan. A diwan is a formal archive of a poetic voice arranged in alphabetical order and has poems that have been selected by the poet themselves. And often they take great care with the first poem. So here is the first poem in Ghalib's diwan. नक्श फरियादी है किसकी शोखिए तहरीर का, कागजी है पैरहन हर पै करे तस्वीर का. Naqsh, the image, फरियादी है, is a plaintiff, is pleading. किसकी शोखिए तहरीर का, so whose mischief is this image pleading against? कागजी है पैरहन हर पै करे तस्वीर का. Every figure in this painting is dressed in paper. Now this probably refers to this tradition where a justice seeker would approach the ruler wearing a garment made of paper. I say probably because with Ghalib you never know. And in this share, he announces that आ गही दामे शनीदन जिस कदर चाहे बिछाए. Agahi, awareness, Dame Shanidan, a net of your listening comprehension. Jis qadar chahe, no matter how you spread this net of your awareness, mudda'a anha hai apne alame taqreer ka. The meaning of my verses is like a mythical bird, anha. You might have heard it by a different name, Simurg. If you have read Fariduddin Attar's The Conference of Birds, you might have come across this. So he says, no matter what you do, you're not going to understand what I mean. And then this third share, and I'll move on after that to a different verse, is Kav kave sakht jani hai tanhai na pooch, subha karna sham ka, lana hai juwe sheer ka. Okay, this requires a little explanation. So this is referring to the story of Shireen and Farhad. For those of you who are unfamiliar with it, the bare bones version is that Farhad was a mason, a stonecutter, who fell in love with Shireen, who was this beautiful queen married to Khusro. In Persian tradition, the true love story is Shireen and Khusro. But Farhad's love is unrequited. He loved her from afar. Shireen never knew of Farhad's love for her. And Khusro, in order to play a prank on Farhad, said, sure, you can have her, as long as you can extract a river from this mountain with your pickaxe. And the tradition is that he was asked to extract a river of milk, but basically what that means is that when a frothy stream emerges, it looks white like that. So Juwe here is a stream of milk. And so Farhad gets to work. And he works diligently. And he works and works until he manages to extract this. And he's coming down to accept his reward when Khusro sends word to Farhad that Shireen has died. And Farhad, in grief, kills himself with his axe. For those of you who know Ghalib, you might remember that other share, Peshe bagair mar na saka koh kan asad, sargash gaye khumar rusumo kuyut tha. How uninventive that when he wanted to die, all he could think of was his pickaxe, because that's what he used all the time. He was a prisoner of his own customs and traditions. Should have thought of a more inventive way to die. So this, back to the share. Kaab kaave sakht jani hai tanhai na pooch. Tanhai, solitude, loneliness. Sakht jan, difficult to kill. The loneliness that is difficult to kill is kaab excavating, is excavating my heart, is excavating my being. Subha karna sham ka, to turn night into day, which means to spend the night. Lana hai jue sheer ka, is as difficult as extracting a river of milk. Once again, an uncle of mine was recovering from a surgery, and I asked him, how are you doing? He said, Subha karna sham ka, lana hai jue sheer. दिन तो गुजर जाता बाबा, सुबह करना शाम का. चलिए आगे बढ़ते हैं. So let me just kind of talk to you about some of the common metaphors of Urdu poetry. And since the ghazal is primarily a love lyric, let's begin with the concept of ishq. So ishq is an Arabic word that means love or passion. And this is a simplification, but Sufi thought usually speaks of two kinds of ishq. Ishq majazi and ishq haqiqi. Ishq majazi is a love for the finite and the visible, for a human beloved. Something you can touch, you can lose, you can long for. And it moves through desire, jealousy, separation, pain. Ishq haqiqi, by contrast, is a love for the real, where longing is no longer about a possession, but about surrender, about letting the self dissolve into what is loved. One teaches the heart how to ache, the other teaches it how to give itself up. In both cases, ishq is the pull to move from firaq, which is the separation from the beloved, to visal, the union with the beloved, and thus to kamal, which is a sense of completion. That is why the ghazal doesn't gender either the lover or the beloved, because the beloved isn't just a romantic figure. For Sufis, it is the divine. For progressive writers, it was the revolution. Another aside, talking about desire, there is an honored tradition of homoerotic or pederastic or homosexual or homosocial love in Urdu poetry, a discussion on which will require its own separate session. Let me just give you a couple of small examples and move on. All of you must be familiar with, many of you might have heard the famous Amir Khusro ghazal, Chhap tilak sab chheeni, mujhse naina milai ke. You snatched away my being, my identity, by gazing at me. Now, naina milana is a very erotic act. So who's Khusro talking about? Who is this जिसने छाप तिलक सब छीनी खुसरो साहब से नैना मिलाई के? And the answer is in the final verse, of course. The Makhtawer, Khusro talks about Nizamuddin Aulia. Khusro Nizam ke bal bal jayo, mohe suhagan ki neere mose naina milai ke. And here's a share by the Khudaye Sukhan Mir Taqi Mir. मीर क्या सादे हैं, बीमार हुए जिसके सबब, उसी अवतार के लड़के से दवा लेते हैं. How naive Mir is. He goes to get his medicine from the pharmacist's ladka, the very young man who is himself the cause of Mir's pain. Oh, back to the ghazal. A defining feature of the ghazal is the beloved's cruelty. The beloved keeps the lover at arm's length, but never far enough for hope to fade away. खूब पर्दा है कि चिलमन से लगे बैठे हो, पाक साफ छुपते भी नहीं, सामने आते भी नहीं. What kind of parda is this? You sit scooting so close to the chilman. Neither do you hide yourself, nor do you show yourself. The divine version of this is Iqbal's कभी आए हकीकत मुंतज़र नजरा लिबास मजाज में कि हजारों सजदे तड़प रहे हैं मेरी जली में मजाज. So the beloved gives freely to the lover's rivals, but never to the lover. So much so that the rare moment of attention feels almost unbelievable and suspect. So Ghalib writes, मुझ तक कब उनकी बज़्म में आता था दौरे जाम, साक़ी ने कुछ मिला न दिया वो शराब. How come the wine bearer, another metaphor for the beloved, has served me today? Has she slipped something into my drink? And you probably know this ghazal with its quintessentially cruel beloved. रंजिश ही से सुनना करते दिल की दास्तां और कलाई पर तेरा कंगन घुमाना याद है. बेरुखी के साथ with disinterest, listening to the story of the anguish of my heart while she twirls her bangle on her wrist. I guess today's equivalent would be, yeah, I'm listening. So I'm just going to kind of, there are dozens and dozens of these metaphors, but I'm going to just hint at a few and move on. And the Shama is a candle that beats back darkness, but in the process it burns down itself. ऐ शम्मा तेरी उम्र तभी है एक रात, हंसकर गुजार या इसे रोकर गुजार दी. Ibrahim Zofka. Your lifespan is but a night. Choose whether to spend it laughing or to spend it weeping. And the concept of weeping fits with the Shama because the candle's moan drips like tears. And then those of you who are old enough or who are fond enough of old films to have seen Mahboob Studio Productions might remember this booming voice that began every movie. फानूस बन के जिसकी हिफाजत हवा करे, वो शम्मा क्या बुझे जिसे रोशन खुदा करे. The Shama is often paired with the Parwana, the moth, which is drawn to the flame and dies in the process. Again, the theme of the self-sacrificing lover. If you remember the song from Umrao Jan, इन आँखों की मस्ती के मस्ताने हजारों हैं, उसका एक अंतरा है कि इस शम में फरोज़ां को आंधी से डराते हो, इस शम में फरोज़ां के परवाने हजारों हैं. Don't threaten this flame with the storm, for this flame has thousands of moths circling it and protecting it. Yet another metaphor is that of the bulbul and its captor, the Sayyad, who cages the bird, signifying the asymmetry of power between the lover and the beloved, but also between desire and fate. The nightingale sings because it must, even knowing that its song will reveal itself to the captor. Expression becomes the cause of its capture, and to love is to make oneself visible and to make oneself vulnerable. Silence might offer safety, but the bulbul chooses song, and in that choice lies both its beauty and its doom. And the bulbul is resigned to its fate. बुलबुल को बाग़बां से न सय्याद से गिला, किस्मत में खैर थी लिखी फसले बहार में. Bahadur Shah Zafar. By the way, there's a honored tradition of scatological poetry in Urdu that deals with shitting and potting. It's not crass, except that it's talking about it. It's quite smart, actually. I don't know if you have the stomach or the guts for it. But here are a couple of examples by the inimitable Chitkin. था गिरफ्तारी ने जो खतरा मुझे बेदाद का, कर दिया बैतुल खला हर हक के घर सय्याद का. The bulbul is caged, but in defiance, it shits all over the captor's house, turning it into a toilet. और ये कहता हुआ चलूं, चिटकी कहते हैं कि किसी के पाद से उड़ती न कंकरी देखी, I never saw anyone blow away even a pebble with their heart. उड़ाए देता है चिरकी पहाड़ खुशकी से. So the bulbul imprisoned by its captor in a khafas, a cage, or the zindan, the prison, and longs for home. The sabah, the morning breeze, or the naseem, the gentle wind, brings with it fragrance and a message from afar. खफस उदास है यारो सबा से कुछ तो कहो कहीं तो बहरे खुदा आज जिक्र यार चले. An imprisoned Faiz Ahmad Faiz, awaiting execution in solitary confinement, writes about his beloved, in this case his nation. हम अहले खफस तन्हा भी नहीं, हर रोज नसीमे सुबह वतन यादों से मुअत्तर आती है, आंखों से मुनव्वर जाती है. We, the imprisoned, aren't alone, for daily the gentle breeze of our homeland comes laden with its fragrance and departs sparkling with our tears. खफस है बस में तुम्हारे, तुम्हारे बस में नहीं, चमन में आतिश गुल के निखार का मौसम. You control the cage, but not the flowering of the rose. सबा की मस्त फिरानी तहे कमंद नहीं, असीर दाम नहीं है बहार का मौसम. You cannot tame the dance of the morning breeze. You cannot put a noose around the season of spring. Okay. And then there's the aina or the shisha, which stands for the heart. Fragile, easily broken, and once shattered, impossible to restore. मोती होते शीशा जाम के दुर, जो टूट गया सो टूट गया, कब अश्कों से जुड़ सकता है, जो टूट गया सो टूट गया. तुम नाहक शीशे तुम चुन चुन कर दामन में छुपाए बैठे हो, शीशों का मसीहा कोई नहीं, क्या आस लगाए बैठे हो. This broken shisha cannot be glued back with tears. There is no Messiah who will fix it. Stop hoping for one. And then there's Iqbal, who time and again argues for a brave kind of love, one that risks all and is not fazed by the prospect of loss. तू बचा बचा के न रख इसे, तेरा आईना है वो आईना, कि शिकस्ता हो तो अजीज तर है निगाह है आईना साज में. Stop protecting it. Your aina is even more dear in its creator's eyes when it is shattered. In a similar vein, he writes, ऐसे ये होता है कि एक शेर है तो कहो तो एक और याद आ जाता है. तो इकबाल लिखते हैं कि लाजिम है दिल के साथ रहे पास बाने अक्ल. Yes, it's important that love be accompanied by the sentry, the guard of your aql. लेकिन कभी कभी उसे तन्हा भी छोड़ दे. Let it do its thing sometimes. And then one more Iqbal's. This refers to a story where the Prophet Ibrahim jumps into the flames at the Nimrod's challenge, confident in the knowledge that he will be saved by his God. बेखतर कूद पड़ा आतिश नमरूद में इश्क, अक्ल है महवे तमाशाए लबे बाम कभी. Unhesitatingly, love flings itself into the flames of Nimrod, while aql, reason, paces the rooftop, watching the spectacle from a safe distance. एक जावेद अख्तर साहब की गज़ल याद आ रही है. तो वो लिखते हैं, हाँ, कभी कभी मैं ये सोचता हूँ कि मुझको तेरी तलाश क्यों है, कि जब हैं सारे हितार टूटे तो साज में इर्तियाश क्यों है. कोई अगर पूछता जो हमसे बताते हम गर तो क्या बताते, भला हो सबका कि ये न पूछा कि दिल पे ऐसी खराश क्यों है. And then the share that I wanted to actually recite, which is, उठा के हाथों से तुमने छोड़ा, You picked it up and dropped it. चलो ना दानिस्ता तुमने तोड़ा. Okay, I'll grant you that you didn't do it deliberately. उठा के हाथों से तुमने छोड़ा, चलो ना दानिस्ता तुमने तोड़ा. अब उल्टा हमसे तो ये न पूछो कि शीशा ये पाश पाश क्यों है. अच्छा, तो मैं थोड़ा तेजी से आगे बढ़ता हूँ. I just Ashik, of course, drowns their sorrow in sharab. The drinking of which is, among other things, an elan bagawat, the sign of rebellion. Not going to follow convention. Both poets and the poet's protagonists drank a lot in Urdu poetry. And there are 4 stock characters in Urdu poetry, all pious figures who forbid wine, and who are therefore the subject of much ridicule, both for their petty piety and for their abundant hypocrisy. So there's the Zahid. The Zahid renunciates pleasure, is spiritually anxious and joyless. So Sheikh Ibrahim Zauq writes, Zahid शराब पीने से काफिर हुआ मैं क्यों? क्या 1.5 चुल्लू पानी में ईमान बह गया? Is that all it takes for your faith to be lost? And then there's the famous sher that has now indelibly, what's the word I'm looking for? Has become attached to Ghalib. Everybody now believes that this is Ghalib when it is not, which is Zahid शराब पीने दे मस्जिद में बैठकर या वो जगह बता के जहाँ पर खुदा ना हो. इसका एक वर्जन मैं सुना था कि जाहिद शराब पीने दे मस्जिद में बैठकर ये घर खुदा का है ये तेरे बाप का नहीं. Counter figure to the Zahid is the Rind, the lover of wine, who rejects outward piety in favor of inward freedom. He's not a drunkard in the literal sense, he's a symbolic rebel against hollow virtue. उस रिंद सिया मस्त का ईमान न पूछो, तिश्ना हो तो मखलूक है, पी ले तो खुदा है. Don't ask the disgraced and intoxicated rind about his faith. If he's thirsty, he's a mere mortal. When drunk, he is God. एक दफ़ा एक रामपाल जोशी साहब से मैं कहानी सुना था कि मोहिंदर सिंह बेदी साहब एक मुशायरे की निज़ामत कर रहे थे और उन्होंने एक नौजवान शायर को दावत सुखन दी ये कहकर कि ये जो लड़का आ रहा है ये अपने दौर का सबसे बेहतरीन शायर बनेगा बशर्ते ये कि ये जिंदा रहे क्योंकि ये कमबख्त पीता बहुत है. तो उन्होंने ये नरेश कुमार शाद साहब को दावत दी और शाद साहब ने सुनाई ये गज़ल कि ये इंतज़ार गलत है कि शाम हो जाए, जो हो सके तो अभी दौर जाम हो जाए. तो मुझ जैसे रिंद को जब मुझ जैसे रिंद को भी तूने हश्र में यारब. Hashr is the collection of all souls on the day of judgment. So everybody is called and then they are sorted into these 2 buckets. तो मुझ जैसे रिंद को भी तूने हश्र में यारब बुला लिया है तो कुछ इंतजाम हो जाए. खुदा न खास्ता पीने लगे जो वाइज भी हमारे वास्ते पीना हराम हो जाए. God forbid that the wise, who's the second stock figure I wanted to talk about, who's the preacher who sermonizes about heaven and hell. कहाँ मैं खाने का दरवाजा गालिब और कहाँ वाइज, पर इतना जानते हैं कल वो जाता था कि हम निकले. Whether the holy man, whether the tavern, but I know that he was entering as I was leaving. Another stock character is the sheikh, who represents institutional piety and moral rigidity. हम शेख न लीडर न मुसाहिब न सहाफ़ी, जो खुद नहीं करते वो हिदायत नहीं देते. And then there's the nasih, the one who cautions and offers moral advice. मोहब्बत को समझाना है तो नासिह खुद मोहब्बत कर, किनारे से कभी अंदाज़े तूफान नहीं होता. डर के मैं ही समझ इसे नासिह, इतनी पी है कि पी नहीं जाती. just consider this to be my abstinence, O Nasir. I've drunk so much tonight that I can't drink anymore. So these then are the objects of ridicule in Urdu poetry: the pious sheikh, the ascetic zahid, the preaching bias, and the cautioning Nasir. Hypocrites all. इंसान का लहू पियो ये इज़्न आम है, says Josh Merihabadi. इंसान का लहू पियो, go ahead, suck the blood of human beings dry. ये इज़्न आम है. You're allowed to do that. अंगूर की शराब का पीना हराम है. The wine, that is forbidden. It is this sense of defiance that made Urdu such a rich ground for progressive sentiment. This too is a story for another day, but I do want to tell you what I'm not going to tell you. By the early 20th century, Urdu poetry had turned fiery after the October Revolution in the Soviet Union. There was an air of expectation in much of the Third World, still struggling under the yoke of colonialism, that the overthrow of their colonial overlords would result in the rule of the people. And writers and artists were seeking to use their work in the service of social change. And the progressive writers' movement in Urdu became a hegemonic force that produced a cultural consensus that the purpose of art was to speak about the struggles of ordinary people, to highlight their subjugation and to persuade people to act. No more philosophy of mudda anakha hai. Art had to be explicit. Fun jo nagar tak nahi pahuncha, apne meyar tak nahi pahuncha. Art that does not reach the ordinary people fails to achieve its potential. No more art for art's sake. Art had to be for life's sake. No longer would art be a mirror to reflect reality. It had to become a hammer with which to shape it. So Urdu poets wrote about colonialism, about socialism, about the struggles of people and their aspirations. And when colonialism gave way to the bourgeois state, Urdu poetry became a means of critiquing it. You might remember, Zara mulk ke rahbaron ko bulao, ye kooche, ye galiyan, ye manzar dikhao, जिन्हें नाज है हिंद पर उनको लाओ, जिन्हें नाज है हिंद पर वो कहाँ है. I do want to dwell on one aspect of the progressive era of Urdu poetry, that of feminism. Anyone who is familiar with the field of Urdu poetry will readily recognize and acknowledge that it is extremely gendered. The gendering works at two levels. First, most of the poets are men. Virtuosity in verse is largely, though less so now, considered to be a male purview. And women poets, even well-known ones, are exoticized and marginalized. Second, women feature in Urdu poetry mostly as an abstraction and as the object of a male protagonist's desire, and in progressive sentiment as the weak victims of oppressive structures. So Zahir writes, औरत संसार की किस्मत है, फिर भी तकदीर की बेटी है, अवतार पैगंबर जनती है, लेकिन शैतान की बेटी है. She gives birth to avatars and पैगंबर. ये नहीं कहा कि अवतार पैगंबर बनती है. Perhaps the poem by a male progressive poet that comes closest to representing women as a subject in their own right is the famous one, औरत by Kaifi Azmi. उठ मेरी जान मेरे साथ ही चलना है तुझे. It's held up as an exemplar of feminist sentiment, and it does have some very powerful lines. तोड़कर रस्म के बुत बंदे खदामत से निकल, ज़ोफ़े इशरत से निकल, वहम नज़ाकत से निकल, नफ्स की खींची हुई हल्क़े अज़मत से निकल, कैद बन जाए मोहब्बत तो मोहब्बत से निकल, राह का हार ही क्या, गुल ही कुचलना है तुझे, उठ मेरी जान मेरे साथ ही चलना है तुझे. But there's also this, कदर अब तक तेरी तारीख ने जानी ही नहीं, तुझ में शोले भी हैं, सिर्फ अश्क फिशानी ही नहीं, तू हकीकत भी है, दिलचस्प कहानी ही नहीं, तेरी हस्ती भी है एक चीज़, जवानी ही नहीं, अपनी तारीख का उन्वान बदलना है तुझे, उठ मेरी जान मेरे साथ ही चलना है तुझे. So Kaifi's poem is radical in the way it positions a woman as a fellow companion, and an exhortation that women take free from tradition and custom. But where it falls short is that he demands that this woman shed her accoutrements of femininity in order to accompany him on his quest. उठ मेरी जान मेरे साथ ही चलना है तुझे. And nor does he fully reject the conventions, because this woman in his poem has the capacity to produce flames in addition to the ability to shed tears. Her existence is just more than her beauty and youth. It fell upon women feminist poets, particularly those nurtured in the misogynist climate of Zia-ul-Haq's Pakistan, to insist on not just subjecthood but agency. Let me recite just one short poem titled Aqlima. Aqlima, according to Islamic texts, was Adam and Eve's daughter, Cain and Abel's sister. तो फहमीदा रियाज़ की हैं अक़लीमा, जो हाबील और हाबील की माजाई है, माजाई मगर मुख्तलिफ बीच में रानों के और पिस्तानों की उभार में और अपने पेट के अंदर और कोख में. Aqlima, the sister of Cain and Abel, sister but different between her thighs, different in the swell of her breasts, different in her womb. वो अपने बदन की कैदी तपती हुई धूप में जलते टेले पर खड़ी हुई है, पत्थर पर नक्श बनी है. इस नक्श को गौर से देखो, लंबी रानों से ऊपर, उभरे पिस्तानों से ऊपर, पेचीदा कोख से ऊपर अक़लीमा का सर ही है. अल्लाह कभी अक़लीमा से भी कलाम करे और कुछ पूछे. Imprisoned by her body, she stands atop a burning hill like an etching on a stone. Look at this etching carefully. Above her long legs, above her breast swell, above her contorted womb, Aqlima has a head. Let God address Aqlima too sometime and ask her something. And then there's one short poem and then I'll move on. It's called Intisab, Dedication. It's by Ishrat Afreen. It's a two-liner. And it goes, Mera khat mere baap se uncha nikla aur meri maal jeet gayi. I grew taller than my father, thus securing my mother's victory. You may or may not have noted it in the poetry I decided, but a dominant theme in Urdu poetry is that of gham, of sorrow. Babat, दर्द व गम दिल की तबीयत बन गए, अब यहाँ आराम ही आराम है. तो बाबर इमाम साहब लिखते हैं कि जिंदगी के गम, दिल के रोग और यादों के चिराग, अगर शायरी में गम का जिक्र न हो तो बात अधूरी रह जाती है. चाहे वो आशिक के दिल का दर्द हो, महबूब की जुदाई का कर्ब, या जिंदगी की नाइंसाफियों का शिकवा, उर्दू शायरी में गम के हर पहलू को इतनी गहराई से परखा गया है कि वो अल्फाज की सूरत में जिंदा जावेद हुए. यहाँ गम सिर्फ एक जज्बाती कैफियत नहीं, बल्कि एक फलसफा, एक कहानी और ज़िंदगी को देखने का नया ज़ाविया है. उर्दू शायरी की यह खूबसूरती है कि उसने गम को सिर्फ एक दुख के तौर पे पेश नहीं किया, बल्कि उसे एक तख्लीकी ताकत और फ़नी मेराज में बदल दिया. यही गम कभी एक दास्तान बनकर, कभी एक ख्वाब की तरह और कभी एक चीख की शक्ल में हमारे दिलों को छूता है. गम एक ऐसी कैफियत है जो दिल के ज़ख्मों को अल्फाज की शक्ल देता है. एक दो शेर सुना देता हूँ गम पे. साहिर का है कि हम गमज़दा हैं, लाएं कहाँ से खुशी के गीत, देंगे वही जो पाएंगे इस जिंदगी से हम. गालिब का है कि जुल्मत कदे में मेरे शबे गम का जोश है, एक शम्मा है दलील सहर सो खामोश है. But there's one gum that trumps all gums, and that is the Gham-e-Karbala, the battlefield where Imam Hussain, the Prophet's grandson, his family, and his small band of faithful companions faced off against the large army of the Yazid, the tyrant caliph of the times. Rather than bow before this man and legitimize his rule, Hussain chose to fight, knowing that this would result in certain death. And there's an entire genre of Urdu poetry, the Marsiyat, that pays homage to this battle. Written by masters of their craft, such as Mir Anis and Dabir, these epic elegies carry a lot of emotional weight. I could talk about the history of the Urdu Marsiya, its origins in 16th century South India, its evolution from its 2-unit form, the Qasida, to the 4-unit form, the Murabba, to its current 6-unit form, the Musaddas. its formal structures, its themes, its modern or Jadid form, but yes, that would require yet another talk. So instead of talking to you about the Marsiyas, I have asked my bachis to perform some aspects of this elegiac form of mourning. They will do the three different kinds of elegies. First, Sheher Bano will offer a poem called The Souls, a word that means quiet suffering or a burning ache. And then she and Zahra will perform a few bands from a Marsiya. Typically a Marsiya Khan, the one who recites the Marsiya, infuses the poem with passion and pathos. The chorus joins in the fourth and the sixth line, and audiences listen to this heart-rending narrative and either sob softly or wail loudly, depending on the importance of the majlis, the relevance of the day, or their own emotional state. And then Zahra will offer a noha, a lament that is often accompanied by the rhythmic beating of your chest, the matam. Feel free to participate in any way you choose, and while I don't expect you to cry, it's okay to do so. All right. कुर्सी में बैठते हैं, आप खड़े होते हैं। ओके।
सो जा घर में नहीं है पानी, सो जा भाई ने तेरे भाले खाए, तेरे चचा ने हाथ कटाए, मशके सकीना छिद गई बेटा, बह गया सारा पानी, सो जा। 3 दिनों का तू है भूखा, 3 दिनों का तू है प्यासा, कुम्हला गया है मुखड़ा तेरा, सूख गया है पानी, सो जा। माता पिता की अखियों के तारे फूट गए, भाग हमारे, करबल बन में गम के मारे, दूध है वरना पानी, सो जा, सो जा असगर जानी, सो जा। इसको मसला जख्मी सिना से रन में जोश का पिसर हुआ, हर सिमत से नई भरे हमलावर हुआ,
हशर हुआ, आखिर जुदा ख्वाब से वो सीमर हुआ। मख्तर में क्या हुजूम था, इस नूरे पर परवाने गिर रहे थे चरागे हुसैन पर। गिरना था बस के सर पे लगा गुर्ज है सितम, यूं छुप गए कि होते हैं सजदे में जैसे गम। रख दी गले पे शीश ने शमशीर तेज दम, तलवारें पड़ी के हुई फसलियां खलम। था करो न रहम तने बाश पाश पर, दौड़ा दो घोड़े अकबर मेहरू की लाश पर। लाशें पे सर को ढूंढते थे शाह बहरो गए, सर पीटने की चाहे के हंसते थे अहले शहर। कहता था शिमर पिसरे सैयदुल बशर, किसको हुजूर ढूंढते हैं मर गया पिसर। कोई ढूंढ लीजिए जसा दे पाश पाश को, बतलाएंगे ना हम अली अकबर की लाश को। हिचकी के साथ कहते हैं वो करके चश्मे तार, ए जाने जिसमें जार में एक दम जरा ठहर। ए मौत बे वतन की जवानी पे रहम कर, ए दर्द थम जरा के भड़कता है अब जिगर। ए दर्द थम जरा के भड़कता है अब जिगर। फिर एक बार सैयदे वाला को देख लूं, मोहलत बस इतनी दे के मैं बाबा को देख लूं, मोहलत बस इतनी दे के मैं बाबा को देख लूं। दुश्मन को भी ना बेटे का लाशा खुदा दिखाए, हजरत जमी पे गिर के पुकारे के हाय हाय। जिंदा रहे ये पीर जवान यूं जहां से जाए, लाल 3 रोज के फाके में जख्म खाए, लाल 3 रोज के फाके में जख्म खाए। शायद जिगर के जख्म से तुम बेकरार हो, जख्मी तुम्हारी छाती पे बाबा निसार हो, जख्मी तुम्हारी छाती पे बाबा निसार हो।
This is a Noha which I'm going to recite now along with my cousin. And Noha usually is done by standing and doing the madam, but that we are not going to do now. Okay. ऐ राकिब दोष शाह लौलाक, ऐ राकिब दोष शाह लौलाक, बाइज़्ज़ो वक़ार व हुसैनाम। सीने पे तुम्हारे या शहे पाक, सीने पे तुम्हारे या शहे पाक, कातिल हो सवार व हुसैना। ऐ राकिब दोष शाह लौलाक, बाइज़्ज़ो वक़ार व हुसैना। फर्क आपका और सिनाने खूली, फर्क आपका और सिनाने खोली, फर्क आपका और मकाने खोली, फर्क आपका और मकाने खोली। आलूदाए खाके वो रुखे पाक, जुल्फों पे गुबार व हुसैना। ऐ राकिब दोष शाह लौलाक, बाइज़्ज़ो वक़ार व हुसैना।
मजरूह हो अल्लामा वो सीना, मजरूह हो अल्लामा वो सीना, जानू वो कहाँ वो सीना, जानू वो कहाँ वो सीना, वो से कहे खुदिया लौला और तेज की धार व हुसैना, ऐरा के बेदोश शाह लौला माइज़ो वक़ार व हुसैना। कुछ सिर्फ गयूर ही नहीं है, कुछ सिर्फ गयूर ही नहीं है, मातम में तेरे हर एक हंसी है, मातम में तेरे हर एक हंसी है, या शाह है तेरे गम में गमना, अफला को बहार व हुसैना, ऐरा के बेदोश शाह लौला माइज़ो वक़ार व हुसैना। सीने पे तुम्हारे या शहेपा, सीने पे तुम्हारे या शहेपा, आदिल हो सवार व हुसैना।
Karbala is, like I said, Imam Hussein. His companions chose death over subservience and is often held up in Urdu poetry as an exemplar of the fight between good and evil. And the Marsiya follows a particular structure. I'm going to recite some verses from a Marsiya. I will not do much translation because I think it will take us too deep into the words. So एक मंजर कशी हो रही है जिसे चेहरा कहते हैं कि रोज़े आशूर, the day of the battle has dawned and the warriors are stepping out to get ready to fight. So here is how Mir Anis describes these men. सूखे लबों पे हमद इलाही रुखों पे नूर. Okay, so one very important part of the Battle of Karbala was that this group of people were encircled by the enemy and were denied water. And this is in the desert at a time of intense heat. तो सूखे लबों पे हमद इलाही रुखों पे नूर, खौफो हिरास और रंज कदूरत दिलों से दूर, फैयाज हक शिनास उलिल अज़्म ज़ी शऊर, खुश फिक्रो बज़ला संजो हुनर परवरो गुयूर, कानों को हुस्न सौत का हज़ बरमला मिले, बातों में वो नमक के दिलों को मज़ा मिले, सावंत बुर्दबार फलक मर्तबत दिलेर, आली मनश सबा में सुलेमा बेगा में शेर, गिरदान दहर उनकी ज़बरदस्तियों से ज़ेर, फाखे में 3 दिन से मगर जिंदगी से सेर. Hungry and thirsty for 3 days, but sated with life. And then there's a section where Mir Anis describes how hot the day was. And there are like well over a dozen stanzas that do it. I'll just read a few. गर्मी का रोज़ जंग क्यों कर करूं बयां, डर है कि मिस्ल शम्मा ना जलने लगे ज़बां, वो लू के अल-हज़र वो हरारत के अल-अमा, रंग की ज़मीन तो सुर्ख थी और जर्द आसमां, आबे खुनक को खल्क़ तरसती थी खाक पर, गोया हवा से आग बरसती थी खाक पर, झीलों से 4 पाए न उठते थे ताबा शाम, मस्कन में मछलियों के समंदर का था मकाम, आहू जो काहिले थे तो चीता सियाह फाम, पत्थर पिघल के रह गए थे मिसले मोम खाम, सुर्खी उड़ी थी फूलों से, the redness had left the flowers, सुर्खी उड़ी थी फूलों से सब्जा की आँख से, the grass was no longer green, सुर्खी उड़ी थी फूलों से सब्जा की आँख से, वो पानी कुएं में उतरा था साए की चाह से. The water in the wells had sunk lower and lower, seeking a shadow. आबे रमा से मुंह न उठाते थे जानवर, जंगल में छिपते फिरते थे तायर इधर उधर, मर्दुम थी साथ पर्दों के अंदर अरख में तर, खसखाने निज़ा से निकलती न थी नजर। खसखाना निज़ा is the eyelashes and he's comparing it to a पर्दा of खस। तो खसखाने निज़ा से निकलती न थी नजर, it was so hot that even नजर आपकी आंखों से नहीं निकलती थी। गर चश्म से निकल के ठहर जाए राह में, पड़ जाए लाखों आब ले पाए निगाह। Should it land on the sand, there would be 1,000 blisters that would show up on your nazar. शेर उठते थे न धूप से मारे कछार से, आहू नमो निकालते थे सब्ज़ा ज़ार से, आई नए महर था मुक़द्दर गुबार से, गर्दों को तप चढ़ी थी ज़मीन के बुखार से। The earth was so feverish that the sky turned hot. गर्मी से मुस्तरिब था ज़माना ज़मीन पर, भुन जाता था जो गिरता था दाना ज़मीन पर। अभी आखिरी शेर का आखिरी बंद के गिरदाब पर था शोले जव्वाला का गुमा, अंगारे थे हुबाब तो पानी शरर फिशां, मुँह से निकल पड़ी थी हर एक मौज की ज़बां, तय पर थे सब नहंग मगर थी लबों पे जान, पानी था आग गर्मी रोज़े हिसाब थी, माही जो सीखे मौज पे आई कबाब थी। तो मैं जो है एक नई जदीद नज़्म सुना देता हूँ और फिर 2-4 आखिरी शेर सुना के I'll end this. So a nazm, if you have heard the word, I haven't used it in the talk yet, but it is not a structural form, but it basically refers to a poem that is built on a unity of thought and progression, and where all lines work together to produce a single idea, a scene, or argument or emotion. Unlike the ghazal, whose couplets are autonomous, a nazm forms a coherent whole. So I recently heard a ghazal, a nazm by a young poet, Ammar Iqbal, और वो अच्छी नज़म थी इसलिए याद हो गई, तो वो सुना देता हूँ मैं। इसका बैकग्राउंड ये है कि according to again Islamic history, a king called Abraha attacked the Kaaba with an army which included elephants. And the residents of Kaaba were powerless to defend themselves, and they prayed to God. And God sent a flock of birds who picked up pebbles in their beaks and dropped them from a height on the elephants, causing a commotion in the army, forcing Abraha to retreat. So here is a nazam. Abraha आ गया, फिर से एक शहर में अबराहा आ गया, जाओ तुम जाके हाथी गिनो, तुम जाके कंकर चुनो, और तुम भी सुनो, हस्ब तौफीक कानों में भूसा भरो, और फिर सब के सब आसमानों पे नजरें गजड़ाए रखो, उस अबाबील की राह तकते रहो जो दोबारा मदद को नहीं आएगी। The Ababil is no longer coming to help. Take care of yourselves. Okay. So I started with a few verses on Urdu itself. Let me end in a similar way. दाग दहलवी कहते हैं कि उर्दू है जिसका नाम हम ही जानते हैं दाग, हिंदुस्तान धूम हमारे ज़बान की है। मनीष शुक्ला लिखते हैं, बात करने का हसीन तौर तरीक़ा सीखा, हमने उर्दू के बहाने से सलीक़ा सीखा। फिराक गोरखपुरी रघुपति सहाय राइट्स, मेरी गुत्थी में पड़ी थी हो के हल उर्दू ज़बान, जो भी मैं कहता गया हुस्ने बयां बनता गया। और बशीर बदर की ये बड़ी फेमस कपलेट है कि वो इत्र दान सा लहजा मेरे बुजुर्गों का, वो इत्र दान सा लहजा मेरे बुजुर्गों का, रची बसी हुई उर्दू जबान की खुशबू. And let me end with another stanza from Josh's poem that I began with. Let me first read the translation and then I'll read the verse and that will be it. So Josh writes, "My senses are keen, for I am drunk on your wine. I can seize verse because I am your captive. My accent is savory because I have eaten your salt. My tongue draws its strength from being sick in love for you. By your benevolence, I stand as a leader in Shero Adab, and I can afford to sneer at the powerful because I am your slave. होशियार इसलिए हूँ कि मैं हार हूँ तेरा, सयाद शेर हूँ कि गिरफ्तार हूँ तेरा, लहजा मदीह है कि नमक खार हूँ तेरा, सेहत ज़बान में है कि बीमार हूँ तेरा, तेरे करम से शेर सुखन का इमाम हूँ, शाहों पे खंदजन हूँ कि तेरा गुलाम हूँ."
Hussain, shukriya so much for that wonderful lecture, talk I would say. एक शेर याद आ रहा था मुझे बार बार कि अक्ल के मदरसे से उठ, इश्क के महकदे में आ. So it wasn't academic, it was emotional, it was personal, and a lot of applause for you will get to हुसैन को आप फिर सुन सकेंगे बस में सुल्तान आने वाले वेडनेसडे को है, जिसमें वो हिंदुस्तानी फिल्मों की एक माला डॉक्टर जकीर के साथ वो परफॉर्म करेंगे और हुसैन उसको कंपेयर करेंगे और दो लोग बात करेंगे. तो अगर उसके तो उसमें भी आइएगा आप लोग. हुसैन, थैंक यू सो मच, सो ग्रेटफुल टुडे. एंड एक हमारी तरफ से एक हदिया है छोटा सा, ये या ऑफ गिफ्ट, इसमें टाइम नहीं है, वो एक्चुअली मोमबत्ती है. नहीं है, कुछ भी सही नहीं है. कागज है पेरेंट्स आप इसको पहले तस्वीर का. Thank you so much. Please stay back for our next event, which will start immediately now.